Jeannie. This is our third conversation, and we've come here today just to share with you whatever arises. And as we've said before, we sit in this space from not having to know and allowing our higher self to communicate with your higher self and bring through whatever is necessary for us to discuss today. So
here we are, and what a week it's been. Lots of people in crisis this week. Lots of people with perceived obstacles.
Absolutely.
Things not going the way they'd like them to go. And one of the biggest things I've been hearing this week actually is about how things are coming from people from all sides. And how to actually deal with this and field all these different things. And it's such an interesting thing because as humans we're so used to having one direction. And this is my path, this is my focus, this is my goal, and it all fits in this particular stream of experience. And yet what's happening now as we're becoming more adept with this new energy is that we're really opening ourselves up to being multidirectional. Which means that we're doing this one day, then we're doing this, then we're doing this, then we're doing this. And if you want to stay linear, it's going to drive you crazy.
Yeah,
I
agree. And I think, it's sort of, in a way, a continuation of the conversation last time about the not having to know. And really the only way to be able to feel comfortable in this new experience is to allow that know to direct the next step.
Absolutely.
We were having a mini conversation earlier and just about what's been going on for us. And, my experience selling houses at the moment. My mum's, our own, we bought a new house. And of course, in the new paradigm, you don't sell your house and then find your house. We've done it the opposite way. And obviously that puts pressure on things. And sitting in that, I've been having the observation that I have a memory of what stress would have been like in this place. And so it's like I am in a place where I should be very stressed and I'm observing people around me very stressed, but I'm not engaging in it, but there is still a memory of what that could have been.
Does that memory have an emotion attached to it?
No.
So you can remember the stress, but you can't really engage with the feeling of it.
Yes. And it does feel, interestingly, and confusing at times. And I think from my perspective, the way I've been managing that for myself is just watching what arises and acknowledging that emotion and just going, okay, you can be here, and not putting on a reason for why. And that's been an awareness of the people around me that I've seen really struggling, is that this is a point where we have the opportunity to actually allow something to be happening to us, an obstacle and a challenge, but not then bring all our past experiences forward into the moment to basically correct or to try and compound what we're experiencing. So it's really going, we have the opportunity to respond from a 0 point.
Because really, the way that we've been set up with humanity, with emotional memory, that the chakras tend to hold, and our old blueprints, is that with those sets of memories, we know how to respond to a given situation. So coming into the new energy, it means that because the emotional intensity to those conditions are not there anymore, it's very, very difficult for you to be overcome by that style of reaction. So you can be aware that, there's programming in here that says that in this situation where I'm not selling my house as fast as I'd like to, this should be a really stressful time for me. That's what everybody else is doing, and that's what the programming in me says I should do. But because the emotional content of that programming is not available to you, it's easier for you not to dive into it.
Yes.
Because it's always the emotion that allows you to become entrenched in program. If it doesn't have emotion attached to it, you are aware of it, but you're not necessarily doing it unconsciously. So as soon as the emotion goes, you're conscious of the program.
Yeah.
And
it's like the karmic cycle that we've always previously engaged with, and it's like the cause and effect, and this is the time where that is no longer relevant. And, that whole thing of coming up, and, I've always seen it as within ourselves, we have an experience and we create a belief around it and it gets embedded in ourselves. And then another time comes along and something is triggered and that emotion comes up and that memory. And then we go, oh, this is happening because of that. And, I always knew this was going to happen. And so, therefore, that then just reinforces that and it continues and the cycle
Because
gets re-embedded into the cells.
Yeah.
Where we're at a point of humanity's evolution where everything's coming up for review to be going, how interesting.
I love the way you say that.
When
everything's coming up for review.
Yeah, and when we can just be interested in what is there rather than within it and re-experiencing it, it is just allowed to filter out and become a part of the collective, which is who we truly are. And as that collective hits this physical vessel, it has the experience of Jeannie. As it hits the vessel of Beck, it has the experience of Beck. And so if we can just allow our vessels to have an experience, we don't have to carry around these eons and eons of patterns and behaviours that have become embedded within our DNA. And that's, I think, the opportunity that we're sitting in at the moment, is to just basically experience our divinity through ourselves without any filter, without any anything covering it over, so that we are able to shine our light in a truly magnificent way. And therefore, we can then sit in the I don't know, and that truly magnificence being broadcast from ourselves actually just brings to us our next adventure in life. And if we're excited about it, we step into it.
And it's interesting how in a transition between, that cyclical nature of things in terms of our patterning, our response programs, into this new pulse-like energy that's happening in this paradigm, we start to experience those conditions or set responses in pulses instead of in surges now. So if you feel the stress coming on, you would typically, well, in my history, and I think the history of most people I know, you would have the fever pitch rising with stress. So it would be a compounding over time of different things, and eventually you hit that point where the stress is very, very intense because it moves in waves, and then it takes you quite a while to de-stress. It's a bit of a process. Very typical of the cycle energy. And yet what we're experiencing now is that the stress can come on very, very quickly and then disappear almost instantaneously. So it's really moving in the experience of stress, not stress. Experience of stress, not stress. Because a lot of those programs are still there, as you're saying, because you're still aware of them, but because they're not attached to a cycle anymore, the experience of them is very fleeting.
Yes.
So I think that's a valuable thing to understand in terms of how we treat stress. Because the treatment of stress is generally about a process. Rather than allowing it to be in its fullness and then allowing it to desist.
Yes.
Very, very quickly. The less you do with it, the quicker it's going to go. Which is quite revolutionary, because people tend to think from their experience of stress, if I don't treat this, it's going to stay there for a long time.
And we've got that, we don't want to have stress, we don't want to feel it. Yet, it serves a purpose, and it keeps us alert, it keeps us on the point of being able to see things differently if we choose. And so when stress is there, it's just another opportunity to look at all the times we've decided in our memory that we haven't wanted stress, that we've struggled with stress, that we've died, and basically bring it to a point, I'm going to own the fact that stress has been an important part of the human function. And it still is an experience. And so it just needs to be brought to the place where you can present it with love. And, from a very practical point, I think that is still coming back to that place of, okay, what can I do in a practical way to be able to move through this with grace and ease?
It's so interesting, because last Thursday I had one of those days. I don't know why it's always a Thursday for me. Thursdays for me are the days when everything does not go according to plan. So Thursday is my day to value the whatever happens in the day. It's very difficult to get anything done for me on a Thursday. But last Thursday there were a number of things that came up that really looked very problematic in the whole scheme of what I'm trying to engage with at the moment. And I realised in last Thursday that every experience of stress that I have is an invitation to let go. And every moment of stress is the invitation to say, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't push through it. I can't make something happen that's not happening, which is the opposite to what we're taught. But in this moment, I can say, you know what? Consciousness is going to do with it what it wants to do. And then all of a sudden, usually by the end of Thursday afternoon, everything starts to fall into place again. So for me, gradually, stress is becoming a meditative practice. Because every time I get stressed, I say, okay, let go. It reminds me.
Absolutely. It's a new way of looking at any emotion that comes up that is just there to give us a different awareness. And I think from that point of being able to then go, you know what? Who's the driver of the ship? Consciousness, which is our true essence, has everything in our divine plan. We just need to trust that deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think we're being called to that at a real microscopic level at the moment, and to live everything that we've read about, we've talked about. This is the time for it to become cellular, to actually create the changes so that we can move through life with an opportunity to embrace it from a place of love rather than fear. That, oh my God, what aren't I doing that's causing this, obstacle, rather than, this is another opportunity for me to deepen my trust and surrender.
Yeah.
And they're the different ways that we can actually approach it, and therefore we get a different result and we get a different experience, and it opens up to all potential.
And it's so joyous too, because when you're in the stress and then you let go and you suddenly realise, I can't do anything anyway. It's the most lovely experience of moving between the contrasts of control and openness. So, highly recommended. Use your stress this week as an invitation, and about dropping into the not knowing, and about dropping into the trust in something greater than yourself, and watch what happens.
We'd love to hear if you have any amazing moments where this actually opens you up to a potential that you could never possibly with your human mind think of. And it is the opportunity of each moment. So enjoy.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye.